Greetings. Good day, good night, wherever you are in the world. Trust Christian, own nothing, control everything. You are now tuned into the vault. This is our standard Tuesday show. Every Tuesday, we usually come on at 8 p.m., but just got a lot of great news for you all this week and doing a lot of good work for you all right now to provide to the network, to provide to the trustees. And so Trust Christian's been doing a lot of work this over the past day or two, but it's not forever. So Trust Christian owner to control everything. You tune into the vault, trustee training. If you want to get involved with trustee training, because this is going to be a trust episode, I'm going to go ahead and give you the email from the beginning. It's christian@trustchristian.com. This is going to be serious inquiries for trustee training. It's christian@trustchristian.com. So I'm going to go ahead and get into it for this episode. Thank you for tuning in wherever you are in the world. Good day, good night. So we're going to be talking about this IRS 98 number, this trust that everyone, seems to have a 98 number, so they think that they have a trust. So I just want to thank all of the new listeners, because I know that there's going to be a lot of new listeners, and you might say, well, why is he talking about this thing called a 98 number? I never even heard of it before. Just be very well aware, you all. Trust Christian's not afraid of the IRS. First of all, the IRS is an accounting agency. I was sitting in a networking event early today with a bunch of entrepreneurs, and it's just so hilarious to me to see how grown men and women are afraid of the IRS. Trey Stone, thank you for being a loyal listener. I want to thank, we had an individual, I think Robert. I posted an episode, I think it was about private banking, and or some episode that I did recently, and he really emailed me, and thank you, Andrew, for tuning in live. He emailed me, and literally this video went 18 minutes. I had people live on the air with me for 18 minutes. I love the loyalty, but no one said I couldn't hear you. I'm like, you guys really think I would be sitting here live and not having any live audio going for 18 minutes? So, I'm authentic. This is what we do at the vault. I told you all when I made it a point to come out into the public, you all are starting to see more disclosure. Trust Christian. You're starting to see more transparency. But there are proprietary processes in place. There are private processes in place. So when individuals say they're getting an EIN number with their social security number, how are you doing business at arm's length distance? That is something that we ensure our clientele, make sure that all of our trustees are able to implement those strategies. If you say you want to go private, how are you going private and you got the 98 number with a social? If you got a 98 number, why does the trust not have trust documents? Let's start there. How do you have a 98 number and don't have trust documents? How do you have an EIN number? Because a 98 number is an EIN number. How do you have an EIN number before you have the documentation, the substantiation, the paperwork? I'm not asking the question. I'm stating the facts. The facts is you don't have what you say you have. So I'm going to go down the list tonight of the things that I hear in consultations, the things I hear from colleagues. Let's just start. So I'm going to preface this conversation with you all that Trust Christian has a specific education in trust and contract and charitable private foundations. I have a very specific education. I have mentors that mentor me in this information. This is not something that I Googled. There was no Google education. After I got it from the mentors, I went and solidified my education in the law library, because everything they ever taught me came from the law. It didn't come from me Googling the law. It came from wealthy individuals, trustees. That's what I'm doing for the trustees that we have now. I'm in environments where I have wealthy people that are able to either give us money as trustees to go out and grow the wealth, or for us to be in an environment to work with these individuals, because we also are dealing in the capacity of wealth-based entities, private foundations, and charities, and trust. So, it's an education that I have. It's an education that we give you in trustee training. It's an education that you get as a trustee. It's specific. It's private. It's proprietary. What we have is proprietary at the vault. The way you go about even dealing, whether it's with a 98 number or any type of EIN number, it's proprietary. There's actually flexibility in that EIN number. I've had mentors share with me the flexibility, but I definitely know that the 90 number, if it's used and it's looked at in the proper capacity as a foreign EIN number, it ensures that the entity is classified as a foreign entity. Okay. And telling me you can't hear me again. Okay. Okay. I don't know why you can't hear me, but it should be loud and clear. Can you hear me, Trey Stone? Let me know if you can hear me. So, Angela Adams says she can't hear me. I guess we're going to go through a back and forth tonight about who can hear me, or today, if you can or can't hear me. I'm going to do my best, you all, to bring you all the content. Thank you, Andrew. All right, so, well, there's always another day if we can't hear it, So we're not going to play that game tonight. So once again, proprietary information. Okay? So let's go ahead and bust it down now. U.S. tax form. I got guys contacting colleagues of mine. If you hear this and you know this is you, don't take offense to it. It's called educate yourself. This is what we do at the Vault. We educate CPAs, we educate attorneys. Why? Because the information that we have at the Vault is proprietary. It's 1%. 1% of the lawyers are not educated on the specific style of trust that we use. 99% of the lawyers are not educated on the specific style of trust that we utilize. I can tell you right now, I'm sitting in a room right now all day. I've been up since 5 o'clock at an event today. Wealthy individuals. These individuals are operating out of LLCs, S Corps, C Corps, managing wealthy people's money. You want to know why? Because they're money managers. They don't have specific knowledge related to trust. They leave the trust aspect to the trust and estate attorney. Well, guess what? The trust and estate attorney, when we're sitting in there talking to them, the ones that we have seen at the event, guess what they set their clients up with? They set them up with living trust. They set them up with revocable trust. They set them up with charitable remainder trust. These are trusts that we don't deal in. We deal in private entities. All of those things that I just named are public and statutory. So when they hear about the unique positioning that we have in the marketplace, they're very intrigued. Their ears perk up. But then we got these sovereign citizens. One day they're an American citizen. The other week they're trying to start their own community and not pay taxes. It doesn't work that way. As long as you live on this land and you're doing business with a social, there's a tax liability. And if you're doing business with an EIN, there's a tax liability. Guess what? But you have to understand the type of entities that you're utilizing. I'll share this with you. It's not, you might not know the type of entity that can do it because there's a specific entity that can do it. But yes, a trust can pass on 100% of its tax liability to its beneficiary. The average individual couldn't tell you that. Why do we know that at the Vault? Because it's proprietary. When I talk to trust and estate attorneys, they'll say, well, you can pass it on to the beneficiary, the income that's left over inside of the trust. But it has to be a specific style of trust. And that's what we know at the Vault. The specific style of trust. Because this is what wealthy people are doing. A specific style of wealthy people. We're talking about the 1%. We're talking about your Bill Gates. We're talking about your Warren Buffetts. We're talking about your Zuckerbergs. Why are we talking about Zuckerberg? Because Zuckerberg has a foundation. He has a private family foundation. So when individuals say, well, the U.S. tax form for trusts and estates, that's for domestic trust. No, it's not. It's for entities that are generating and utilizing Federal Reserve notes. You want to know why? Because there's a legal term that you all must not be abreast of if you're saying those type of statements. It's called minimum contacts. It says if your business, whether it's at the EIN, we're talking about the trust that you supposedly have as you have this 98 number. It is dealing with a business or a trade effectively connected with the United States. A citizen is considered a trade or business. So if the trust is collecting monies, dollar bills, guess what? It's effectively connected with a trade or business in the United States. In the United States. Guess what? If the entity is collecting U.S. Federal Reserve notes, it has a reporting requirement. See, you all think that, and this is not you all don't take this personal, we're talking generally in business. People think that the United States system is broken. Guess what? It's called tax accounting. It's just an accounting. You all think that possibly that these trusts are evading taxes. It's not tax evasion, it's tax avoidance. The entity is set up in a specific manner to where it never has to pay. When I say it doesn't have to pay, it's because it's set up a certain way. When you say it's an express trust, Andrew, I'm going to address that for you. A 9A number, when you say it's an express trust, I'm going to break this down for you all tonight. I really have to do this. I really do. Express trust. Express trust can mean that it's written on paper or it's still stated out loud. Granted, and if me and you verbally, like right now, what we're doing through the internet or even face to face can be dealt in an implied trust. Express trust, something that's written on paper. Yes, okay, wow. So let's just go ahead and get into, once again, let's go back to the U.S. tax form. Because if it's in the United States, it has to report. The United States is not asking what are foreign trusts doing in foreign countries. If you say you have a foreign trust, if it's generating funds in Jamaica, the United States can't ask the trust, well, what is it doing in Jamaica? If it's a foreign trust, they can't ask, well, what is it doing in Germany? They're asking specifically the United States, what is this trust entity's United States dollar reporting and tax liability? That's what they're asking. Not, well, what is it doing in another jurisdiction? They're not asking that. But individuals want to sit here and say, well, it doesn't have to report. Why doesn't it have to report? It collected Federal Reserve notes. It collected dollar bills that were either from citizens. Oh, well, my friend, he gave me a donation to my trust. He put the money in a trust. Well, what money did he put in? Did he put in Federal Reserve notes? Did he do that? If he did that, then guess what? There's a potential tax liability. The entity has to report income if it's income. The average individual and don't take this the wrong way. The average individual probably doesn't even know the difference between an asset and income. But they want to sit here and say, oh, it doesn't have a tax liability. At the Vault and Trustee Training, we share with you all how to acquire quality tax attorneys. We share with you all, I did an episode, you can go back, I think it was on my Facebook page. It's called an enrolled agent. You all can Google enrolled agent. These are people that have the highest level of standards and integrity when it comes to dealing with the IRS. You all need to get familiar with enrolled agents. Don't ask Trust Christian, ask the enrolled agents. Go to the enrolled agents and say, hey, well, does the trust not have to report taxes? Why wouldn't the trust have to report taxes? It's inside of the United States. It's dealing with and effectively connected with a trade or business in the United States. But you're going to trust some rinky-dink CPA. Somebody that's, oh yeah, your trust, just go ahead and fill it out as a sole proprietorship. Just fill it out on your 1040. What? They keep calling it your trust. That's how you know they're not a good attorney. That's how you know they're not a good CPA. Because if you dealt in the manner that we're dealing in trustee training and privacy, we're dealing at arm's length distance. Do you even know about arm's length distance as a trustee? See, as a trustee, you're supposed to know this as a trustee. You don't come to trustee training saying, this is what I know. You come to trustee training as a humble servant saying, please share with me what is it that you all have to offer. Teach me the proper way to go about doing this. Educate me on the proper way to go about doing this. Administer my life from a private capacity as a trustee. Administering entities privately as a trustee. It's trustee training. Trustee training is a continuing education program. It's an environment for individuals to network, for individuals to grow together in a private community. So I'm going to get to your question or your statement here, Andrew. I appreciate you all's interaction. So I had to address this whole tax form situation. You all want to talk about this express trust. If you all say you're operating in a 9(8) number trust and the tax form for trust that are doing business effectively connected with the United States are filling out a 1041 forms, do you understand how many trusts it actually recognized on there? There's nowhere on the 1041 that it says there's an express trust. There's nowhere on the 1041 that says that there's a such thing as a living trust. There's nowhere on the 1041 that it says that there is a revocable trust. There's nowhere on the 1041 where it says there's an irrevocable trust. For all you all to say, well, I have an irrevocable trust. There's nowhere on the 1041 that says there's a such thing as an irrevocable trust. There's no statement on the 1041 that says there's such thing as a business trust. Did you know that? Did you research it? Nowhere on the 1041 does it say there's such thing as a business trust. Nowhere on the 1041 does it say that there's a such thing as a common law trust. Nowhere on there. I told you this is a specific proprietary education. Oh, I'm just going to Google it though. Nowhere on the 1041 does it say those things. You please replay every trust that I just stated to you all that it does not say on the 1041. Specifically on the 1041, the thing that says if the entity generated U.S. dollars, this is the trust form that the document that it needs to fill out. Oh well, we're gonna fill out the foreign trust document. Why? What does it matter? Are you gonna report foreign income to the United States? How is it a foreign trust then? That's a domestic trust. But because you don't have the proper education, you're filling out the wrong tax forms. Because you have to have a specific private education. Fact. Specific trust. International trust. How do you have an international trust, but you're not operating privately? You can't operate internationally with a domestic trust. That's a given. You would know that if you knew in trustee training where to go cite that from the proper authorities that say, guess what? We'll allow you to operate in this jurisdiction privately. The United Nations allows it. United Nations, a lot of countries sign on to those documents, stating that they allow trusts to operate in those jurisdictions. But you have to know what trusts they say are okay to operate in those jurisdictions and the ones that don't. Where can you cite that at? As a trustee, how are you going to enforce something you don't even know the proper law for? I was sitting at lunch today with someone, and someone says, "Trust Christian." They said, "Do you fill out? Do you fill out? Do you when you write contracts, when you're dealing contracts, are you always writing in legalese? Is everything done in legalese?" And I said, "No, it's not always done in legalese." I mean, excuse, they asked me, is it always done in legalese or is it done in just regular common English? I said, first of all, if you're dealing in a legal contract, what language do you think you're going to be writing in? You're going to be writing in contract law, which contract law is a form of, it's a legal document. So yes, it's going to sound like legalese. We can't, when we were sitting there, I told them to look at the book that we were sitting in front of. It said capital raising. Capital, the average individual thinks we're talking about the capital of the United States. Second of all, raising is a general term. It sounds like a verb, but it's actually something that, it can describe things, and then you have to actually know the legal definition of raising. There's a law definition for it. Capital raising is a legalese term. But the average individual, they don't understand. They would just say, why don't you say money? Right, because it's a legal aspect to it. So, I just wanted to thank you all for tuning in live. If you all have any questions, I'm going to do my best to answer these questions for this 9(8) number situation tonight. I'm letting you all know that at the vault, we're not coming at it from some sovereign citizen perspective. You think you're going to separate yourself from the United States? How are you going to separate yourself from the United States, folks? What are you talking about? This is just embarrassing as an adult to be coming forth talking about you're not a United States citizen. You're really not. You're in the United States benefiting from the military that's protecting you from so-called North Korea or any other country right now, but you're not a citizen. Yeah, how about you go abroad and see how welcomed you are as a citizen of the United States, as an American. And then you'll understand why this is one of the most, why they build countries to keep people out in their country. They do. Right now, our country is so wide open for people to come over here, the land of opportunity to come over here and do business. Do business in a what's considered one of the one of the better, strongest tax havens in the world. But everyone's so worried about this whole tax bill. You want to know why people worry about the tax bill? Because they public. Private people not thinking about that. Why? Because they understand private means without government, and government means government is imposing taxes. The average individual doesn't know that because they got a public education. We're talking about private trust. We're talking about private, foreign, international trust. Private. Trust may function as an Article 4(2) citizen of the United States via is a trustee, not as a 14th Amendment citizen. 117. This citizen is understood constitutional law as a private citizen. I don't even understand where these statements come from. Once again, I have a private education, okay? My mentors are not with that whole separate yourself from the United States stuff. These are very staunch believers in the Constitution, focused on utilizing the Constitution. Exactly. So let's go ahead and address it. See, you all, this is what happens when you come to the vault. Guess what? Trust Christian's going to be all right. Guess what? All of the trustees that come through trustee training, they're going to be all right. So let's go ahead and address this ignorance. Trustees are not required to file reports with an entity and are accountable only to the beneficiary. Government strictly under principles of equity. First of all, once again, I'm going to state to you, if your trust, the trust that you're managing, trustee, if it generates Federal Reserve notes or dollar bills, it has a tax liability. Why do you think dollar bills have serial numbers on them? Since you're so smart and you're trying to outsmart the system, they're tracked. So why wouldn't it have to report? How are you going to steal wealth from the United States? And the worst part about it is all they're asking the trust to do is to report. But if you understood the proper trust, you wouldn't care about reporting. But because you don't understand what you're doing, you're sitting there looking like a buffoon, typing into the chat, talking about, well, trust don't have to report. I guarantee you, if the IRS finds out that the entity is getting Federal Reserve notes and it's not reporting them, they are going to clean the entire operation up. They're going to ransack it. Only has to report to the beneficiary. So who's the beneficiary? A foreign entity? Or is the beneficiary a public citizen? Who's the trustee? Is the trustee a public citizen? Or is it a foreign person? And guess what? Person in law means corporation, LLC, S Corp, C Corp, trust. But because individuals aren't educated properly, they don't understand that a trustee can even be another entity. They don't understand that a beneficiary can be another entity. And then people want to type into the chat right now. Not going to state any names because people are afraid of embarrassment. But the reality is the entity doesn't have to report. Why wouldn't it have to report? If it doesn't incur a tax liability, then you are correct. But as long as it is generating Federal Reserve notes, it has a tax liability. Period. And until it goes through the proper ways of either distributing that, it is going to have a tax liability. It's the facts. This is something I'm sharing with you all so you can go talk to your enrolled agents, your tax preparers for the entity. So, DJ Hammer, can a grantor settler fund a trust after it's created with W-2 income? So, it sounds like a statutory entity. Why? Because it says that the grantor and the settler created it and now it's going to fund a trust. Okay, yes, it can fund it. Why couldn't it fund it? There's no limits on what's going on here. That's something that you why not? You know what I mean? It's the grantor. It depends on the type of trust. There's over 80 different types of trust. You got to understand that the trust is a contract. A contract law is private law. Here we go. Article 1, Section 10. No state can impair the obligation of a contract. That is the law that we stand on in trustee training. I will state it again for the rookies. Rookie means, you're new to this. We're true to this. Trust Christian. Okay? So, Article 1, Section 10 of the United States Constitution. In part, no state will impair the obligation of contract. Not Article 4. Citizens of the United States can do some blah, blah, blah. No mentor has ever said that to me because I was mentored in this. This is not something that I Googled. This is not something I got from some group or some sovereign community that's trying to separate themselves and live under we're living under Indian tribal laws. I can show you all Supreme Court cases where the IRS has deemed the fact that the trust that's set up for these Indian and Native American tribes are public trust. Why are they public trust? Because the government is a trustee of the trust. That's why it's a public trust. Because the government is a trustee of these Native American tribal trusts. We're not dealing in those things. So you think you're going to get some type of special appropriation? Oh, it's going to be a tax-free jurisdiction. We're going to set up a 9A number trust. We're going to move on our own land. Oh, we're going to be free. And oh, we're not going to have any tax liability. How? Native Americans still deal with tax liabilities? Just because they don't tell you that. How you think they raise the capital to build industry? The entire system, commercial system, is built off of debt. It's built off collateralization. It's built off securitization. It's built off of a debt. It's built off of jobs. Individuals want to sit here and say, oh, I'm going to build my private community. We're going to have, this free tax-free jurisdiction, this tax haven for people to come free and live kumbaya. Sure. You all, I got to talk this candid with you because I'm sitting in front of wealthy individuals today, tomorrow, probably for the rest of the week, and they have no idea what a 9A number is and could care less. All they're focused on is raising capital. All they're focused on is generating triple-digit M's. All they're focused on is dealing in double-digit B's. That's all they're focused on. They could care less if they have debt. They're focused on minimizing risk. They're focused on raising capital, period. Every market across the board. Every market across the board. And then I have colleagues and I have individuals, see guys on the internet. I'm doing this episode for the individuals that put out such a corrupt piece of information on the internet about 9/8 numbers, telling you that you're going to never have to pay taxes, telling you that you're never going to have to do this, never have to do that. They don't even tell you that, they didn't even tell you that you were supposed to have a trust document. Don't provide a trust document, because they're not lawyers. So they don't provide the trust document. They don't provide any of that information to you. But they want to sit here and tell you, if you go get your 9A number, you can go use it on your job and not have to pay taxes. They tell you, oh, if you go get your 9A number, then, the entity that you're using, it doesn't have to pay taxes. Hey, the guy say, oh, I transferred my property inside of my 9A number. First of all, a 9A number is a EIN number. It's a public reporting number. It's not a trust document. It's not a Schedule A. But this rookie didn't know that. He doesn't even know what a Schedule A is probably. But he wants to sit here and say, oh, I just transferred my house into the 9A number, so I don't have to pay what? You don't have to pay property tax? That's the last place you want to not pay is property tax. These individuals don't know how to go out and get the patent for the property. They don't know how to do that. They don't even know about the patent for the property. Don't know where to search to get the patent on the property. But they want to sit here and talk about they transferred the trust. Probably partial legal description into the actual 9/8 number. This guy, we got another guy, I don't even know his name. You know how these people are. This guy says, 9/8 number, are you saying the 9/8 number is non-tax obligated? That's not true. I just mentioned to you all, and I will state it again, and I'm going to stop at this point. Any entity, 9/8, 3/8, 4/7, 3/6, I don't care if it says any number. If it's issued by the IRS, which is a reporting, accounting, financial agency, if it generates Federal Reserve notes, it has some form of a tax obligation to report. It has some type of finance that it has to report to the IRS. Who issued the number? Why get the number if you don't want to be obligated? If you don't want to be obligated, then don't get the number. Smart people, you all are intelligent. I have an excellent audience. You all are intelligent. You understand this. What did I share with you all? Private means without the government. Well, okay, the IRS isn't the government. The IRS is an agency of the government. So they're like the government. So if the entity is not to be bound by a tax liability, guess what? It won't have an EIN number in the first place. But guess what? Then you won't be able to put money in that bank account. Then you won't be able to get money through PayPal. See, I know what you all are trying to do. Then you won't be able to even be able to report it on the county level because you don't know how to even make sure that you can go report it on the county level. I got individuals that come to us here. We'll address this one too. I got these questions come up in trustee training. Do I have to register the trust on the county level? Why would you do that? That's public. You just said you had a private trust. You just said you had a 9(8) number trust. Why are you sharing any information in the public if you have a private trust? Why are you doing that? I'm going to tell you why. Here we go. We're going to wrap it up. It's because you have a public education. You don't have a private trustee training education. That's proprietary. That's what we provide at the vault. We make sure that you're straight. Our name's on the line. Our reputation's on the line. Clients across the board. Professional athletes. Individuals that have businesses. Okay, great question. The reason why it's not going to be tax liable is because, once again, it's not getting Federal Reserve notes. Okay, so the question would be to the audience, to you all, since you all are very intelligent. If you all, well, I can't say you all. If a foreign trust is generating pesos, is it going to report that it's generating pesos on a United States tax return? No, it's not. Because the United States only cares about Federal Reserve notes. So if it doesn't generate any Federal Reserve notes, it's nothing to report. How's there going to be a tax implication if it doesn't have any type of profit? They tax profits, capital gains, dividends. Did you guys look at the 1041 form? Okay, we'll address this one. I'm glad I'm getting this all out on this episode for you all, because this is for your friends and family. It's not for Trust Christian, because we're not saying stuff like this in trustee training. So, how are you going to issue a promissory note and a bill of exchange from a private entity when a private entity, first of all, promissory notes and bills of exchange are securities. And guess what? Do you know where securities come from? Or indemnity bonds. Do you know where they come from? They have to be regulated by the SEC, Securities Exchange Commission. They're dealing with debt obligations. Bonds, debts, bills of exchange. There has to be some form of collateral. There has to be some form of credit. Not debt. The first side, private side, is credit. Public side is debt. That's what you learn in trustee training. I'll repeat that again so you can get an early lesson in trustee training. Private side is credit. Public side is debt. So there's no issuing of a debt from the private side. You come into the public, you create a public entity. The public entity is registered with the Securities Exchange Commission. It can issue promissory notes. Banks are doing it every single day. Banks are issuing bills of exchange. Banks and title companies in the public are issuing indemnity bonds. This is what you learn. This is what you are supposed to know. You shouldn't be speaking about it if you don't know it. Why? Because you're supposed to be doing research. And research will share with you that there's a difference between public and private. That's the difference. 9(8) numbers are supposed to be for foreign entities. That's what they say. These individuals are trying to say that they're private entities. Look, if they're private, why does the entity even need an EIN number? Can you explain why you need that? I'm not asking you, but think about this. If it's such a private or a foreign entity, if it's foreign to the United States government, because that's what private means. See, if you understood that if it was a foreign entity, it's a private entity, because it wasn't created within the United States jurisdiction, and it has no powers given to it by the United States, other than the fact that they're going to protect the right for it to operate in the jurisdiction via contract. And sometimes the contract may state that, guess what? It needs to sit and domicile in the United States, and it may need to open up a bank account. It may need to do business with a trade or business effectively connected. But if it does have a tax liability, it will report with the EIN as well. Simple. That simple. So I wanted to share that with you all. I hope that this was a concise direct approach towards this 9A number situation. It's just like, I don't want to call these individuals vigilantes, but that's what they are. That's what they are. And, my whole thing at the vault is to make sure that people are living in a righteous manner, making sure they're moving in the proper capacity so they can administer their lives. A lot of individuals have children, have mouths. They have women. As men, we have women that we're supposed to feed. And individuals are doing fraudulent, ignorant. Ignorant means you don't know. You shouldn't be doing something you don't know. You measure 20 times and cut once. You're supposed to be doing things based off of knowledge. They say knowledge is power. Yeah, and then when you act on it, you become even more powerful. But you at least got to be knowledgeable about what you're doing. You got to have all the information. You got to know that you got to have debt issued and registered with the Security Exchange Commission. This is what you're supposed to know. So, I just wanted to state that to you all, to take responsibility for what you're really talking about when you're talking about these 9-8 numbers, these trusts. I take full responsibility as a trustee every single day. And I just encourage you all to do the same exact thing. Understand exactly what you're doing. As a trustee, you're not a CPA or attorney. So why don't you go find an enrolled agent? Seek competent counsel. This last question that just came through didn't even put a question mark at the end of it. Grammatical error. Just want to say here and say, should a 9-8 trust? Once again, what is a 9-8 trust? I'm not even going to answer these questions anymore because it's lack of understanding. There's no such thing as a 9-8 trust. Go to the 1041. Do you see 9-8 trust on there? No. That means you're coming in correct. So no, it cannot do it because there's no such thing as a 9-8 trust. Did you know that? Did you all know that? There's no such thing as a 9-8 trust. Go to the form that it's supposed to fill out. Do you see it on there? Nine-8 is not a trust. When did it become a trust? Individuals hear some stuff on the internet, parroted off by some guys that are hiding behind a TV screen, hiding behind a screen. I can share with you already now. I conduct trustee training. I conduct live workshops. I have a speaking engagement. You can go to my Facebook page. You all can see what I talk about. I talk about contract. I talk about people that are entrepreneurs, making sure that they can do business at arm's length distance dealing. We make it a point to share with them to seek competent counsel. Face is on the internet. Name is on the internet. Guys hiding behind their aliases. I understand. Transparency is what I want to bring to this area of doing business. A lot of people don't understand. Why is it that wealthy individuals have charities? What type of charities do they have? And that's something that I seek to bring transparency in. Why these entities, why these structures particularly set up? What's the benefit of them? Let's just have a general conversation as entrepreneurs to grow our wealth. I'm sitting in a room. It's so funny. I'm sitting in a room with individuals for yesterday, today, for the rest of the week. These individuals, all they're talking about is wealth building. I don't hear the average individual talking about wealth. They're talking about money. So I hear these individuals are talking about wealth. One of the guys, what did he say earlier today? He said, we're not in the get rich quick business. We're in the stay wealthy business. Do you hear the mentality? The get rich quick. And I told you, these individuals are talking about triple digit M's. They're not even talking about no hedge fund managers, private equity managers. These guys aren't even talking about. They'll tell you straight up. Some of these guys aren't even operating out of a trust. That's the interesting part. And if they are operating out of a trust, these are not even the type of trust that we're talking about even at the vault. Like I say, I have a specific education, private education, proprietary education. I'm just sharing it. A lot of these individuals are dealing in hedges. They're dealing in securities. So yes, they do have businesses that have licenses. They're dealing with SEC regulations. Very much so. They're dealing in a lot of debt instruments, especially if you're talking about what these guys are talking about. Now you got individuals thinking that they're gonna get over on the system with a 9A number, risking their family. It's deplorable. Please educate yourselves, ladies and gentlemen, even women. Please educate yourselves. This is for all individuals that think they got a 9A number trust. They trying to call it a trust because it's a 9A number. I don't know what's going on. Once again, who issued the Social Security number? Who issued Social Security numbers, folks? The government. How are you going to take that and put it into private? You don't take what's public and put it into private. When you come into trustee training, you understand how to properly convey or exchange property as a trustee. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you all for tuning in live into the vault. I know I came on at 9 p.m. today. Usually we're going to come on at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is Vlogmas. I'm doing an episode every single day on the YouTube channel, so feel free to come back. Tomorrow I might do it at 9, but usually Tuesdays throughout this month I'm going to be doing them at 8, and then throughout the week or anytime I'm going to be doing an episode at any random time. So I really had to do this episode for these 9A number vigilantes, thinking that they can get over on the system, thinking that they don't have to report. All they're doing is just wreaking havoc on the industry, and really it doesn't even matter to people like me. You want to know why? Because the trust that I've never heard anyone in our feed come to us and tell us the specific type of trust that we're utilizing in trustee training. They never come to us and tell us about the type of specific private family foundation, why we even can call it that. They don't even come to us and talk to us about the tax form that it fills out. Once again, why would you be taking a public entity, a public anything, and putting it into private? This is what I'm talking about. Individuals don't understand the difference between public and private. I'll state to this: public and private don't mix. You don't see trust just, oh, we're a trust. They're telling the public, everybody, I don't promote trust. I promote trustee training. That's what we promote, because we understand that when you read a legal dictionary, it says that a trust is a secret. So we talk about trustee training because that's the first thing you need to know. Is you need to understand trusteeship. Once you understand trusteeship, you can operate in any trust, public, private, whatever. And guess what? I'll leave on this. Contract law is private law. Trust is nothing more than a contract. Nothing more. Contract law is private law. The reason why individuals don't have a contract law education is because their family didn't teach them. Well, guess what? You want to know something really interesting about family law? Family law is private law. Individuals didn't know that the education was supposed to come from your private family, but how can it come from your private family when everybody's family's been public? That's the difference. Family law is private law. Trust law is, contract law is private law. That's what we lead with in private trustee training. You all enjoy the rest of your day or your night. Make it a point to share this episode with your friends that tell you that they have a 9-8 number, they think they're doing so well, or even friends that have businesses or whatever. Just make it a point to share. There are a lot of people operating from the incorrect position, and they need to at least have a different level of conversation other than their lawyers telling them or their CPAs telling them, oh yeah, file the 9A number trust on your 1040. Sure thing. The wrong position to be operating from. Oh yeah, you don't have to file. Why wouldn't you have to file? There's a thing called minimum contacts. Aren't you a lawyer? Don't you know that legal term? It's called minimum contacts. Peace and blessings. I'll talk to you all soon.